5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome back. You heard John Bachman just now at the top of the hour in his news brief talk about the fact that the White House is considering some kind of action with regard to Iraq, whether it be airstrikes or some kind of military action to help relieve what's going on there, as ISIS, now known as Islamic State, they're occupying churches, they're tearing down crosses, they're trapping hundreds of thousands of people. They're threatening to open the dam that they have captured. It's a terrible, terrible situation. But the administration had to know this was coming. They sat on their hands all this time, and now they're going to maybe do something. Maybe. They're not sure yet. You know, what can I say? Now, the Pope has called for action as Iraqi Christians are now forced to flee. He appealed to the world leaders today to help end the crisis in northern Iraq after a sweeping advance by the radical Islamic State, a.k.a. ISIS. And this is something, how many weeks, how many months have we been talking about this on this show? What's going on with Christians within Iraq, more recently Mosul, more recently since ISIS. How long has it been since we've been talking about this? And what has been done? What has been said by our State Department? What has been said by our president? No, these aren't glasses. These are 2 zeros. Nothing and nothing. And now all of a sudden, and I'd like to say better late than never, but what good is it going to do? What good is it going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to strike? Who are we going to strike? And are we going to keep a body count on how many civilians and children die, by the way? We're going to go to Ron Christie, but first, let's watch this report from CNN.
Major General Harold Green, who was killed in Afghanistan yesterday. We haven't heard the president talk about that. Officials have been saying inside the administration that part of the reason for that is because the president doesn't want to give special attention to a general when so many soldiers have lost their lives in Afghanistan.
All right. I mean, I've never heard anything like that in my life, but joining us now is Ron Christie, former special assistant to President George W. Bush and staffer for Dick Cheney, and of course you read him at the dailybeast.com, and great to see you, my friend. All right. Let's start with this because it was so bizarre when I heard this that the president, won't mention the general because he doesn't want to put him above the other soldiers in Afghanistan who have died. He's the highest-ranking officer to die in Afghanistan. He's a 35-year veteran of the military. You can't mention what happened and pay your respects publicly to that man?
First and foremost, under the Constitution, he's the commander-in-chief of our armed forces. And not only is this the highest-ranking general in Afghanistan, this is the highest-ranking officer who's died in combat since the Vietnam War. It offends me on so many different levels that the President of the United States was not out at Dover Air Force Base to give respect to that general who has done so much for this country, not just in Afghanistan, but over, as you mentioned, 3 decades of service that I literally can't find the words to describe it.
Yeah, it is shocking. It really is. All right, let's talk about one other thing involving the president before we move to a great piece that you wrote, which details, speaks to a bigger issue of liberal racism. And Barack Obama just hosted this whole African summit at the White House. And the headline of the London Daily Mail is Obama's Monsters Ball, How the White House Opened Its Doors to Some of Africa's Most Evil Dictators and Homophobes and Turned a Blind Eye to Their Human Rights Record. True?
True, very true. And you would never find that in the Washington Post or the New York Times this morning. I think it's abhorrent that you would allow people who have been accused of genocide, who've been accused of war crimes, who have looted billions of dollars, where you have millions of people who are suffering in that continent at the hands of these despots, to be welcomed in the White House and greeted like, hey, we're all the same, we're all presidents. No. If I had actually had the chance, we should have arrested some of these people, let alone let them go through the gates at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, they steal from their people. They drive around in the Mercedes while their people are living in squalor. Yeah. And of course, Obama made such a point of pointing out the homophobia in Russia before the Olympics, yet a lot of these nations will kill homosexuals.
Oh, absolutely, and they have statutes in the books. And I have traveled to Cameroon, and you look at the president of Cameroon, who lives in a palace where the gates, of course, are topped with gold, and then you drive around the country, and so many people are in such abject poverty, and you say, this man has stolen billions of dollars. But hey, it's another party at the White House.
How does Obama, who said he can't reconcile Israel's right to self-defense with the videos and the pictures they're seeing about the death of Israeli civilians, how does he reconcile this former community organizer having feeding these people at the White House while he knows who they are and what they do to their people, black people?
Really, really simple, short answer. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. The thought, I don't think, would come to his mind that as the symbol, as the leader of the President of the United States, which he is, that you would say, on behalf of the American people, we welcome you to the people's house. It's not the White House. It's the people's house. Right. It's our house, your house, my house. I think it's an insult to us, and I think it's an insult to those who elected him that he acts so shamelessly.
All right, I agree with you 100%. All right, the former Secretary of Labor under George W. Bush, who you probably had many dealings with, Elaine Chao, wonderful woman, who happens to be of Asian descent, happens to be married to Mitch McConnell, and he's in an election fight. His seat is up, he's running. And the racist attacks from liberals, which you write about in your piece at thedailybeast.com, just abhorrent.
It's abhorrent. Elaine Chao should be looked at as an American success story. Literally the rags to riches of came to America, didn't speak a word of English, worked hard, went to Harvard Business School, former Peace Corps director, obviously former Secretary of Labor. To be subjected by an organization called Elect Women, by a woman who said, oh, well, she's Chinese. What does that have to do with anything? I look at her, I don't see color, I look at her and say, smart, hardworking, dedicated public servant who happens to be of color rather than the first thing I think of is her color. And I'll say this, Steve. What gets me the most about this is I get it, Michael Steele gets it, Justice Thomas, that if you are a conservative and of color, progressives think that they can jump all over you. And do they have any repercussions in the media? No. But if I said something like that about a progressive person of color who was a Democrat, oh my God, they'd be calling for my head.
I mean, look, we've seen it happen to you, Michael Steele, Marco Rubio. Harry Reid said he's not really Hispanic, and I've seen it happen to Sarah Palin when one of the presidents of now, if not the president of now, when she was selected by McCain, said she might as well be a white male because that's how these in my view, racists and sexists view anybody minority status, whether it's gender or race or whatever, who's not a liberal. They don't count as minority to them.
They don't count. And Harry Reid, so this is one of the ones that I love, picking up on this point. Harry Reid, you remember, we had a very important 5-4 Supreme Court case that was decided, and Harry Reid says, oh, it was decided by 5 white men.
Males, and one was Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, last time I checked. But again, it's this.
No repercussions, though.
No repercussions. It's an underlying mindset. The progressives know that they can insult, belittle, demean people of color who are conservative, and these are the ones who say, we're standing up for civil rights, we're fighting for you, where they have the most despicable displays of racism.
Now, in Elaine Chao's case, I mean, I don't even understand. I mean, they're saying, well, she's not from Kentucky, she's Chinese. Well, what does that even mean?
Yeah, well, I think it's a code word to she's not one of us. Us meaning white, good old boy, whatever. I mean, it is the most insulting thing to try to say about someone. And these guys couldn't even hold her frickin' handbag by her education, her career, and what she's done for this country. And to try to demean her that way, it shows you how desperate they are that they can't run on the issues. It's a smash and burn mentality, I think.
And this will backfire there.
Oh, yes.
But it doesn't necessarily backfire around the country in the minority community. Why aren't good, decent black people, Hispanic people, women, why don't they get offended when this occurs?
It's the title of my second book, Acting White. You know, if you're conservative and you're of color, oh, you're not authentically black. Yeah. Come on, Ron, you're acting white. It's not going to exercise me, because if you're down with the struggle, see, you're voting with the Democrats, you're supporting Obama, so if apparently I'm not down for the struggle. And the media not only perpetuates this, but they give these racists a pass. Where's Jesse Jackson? Where's Al Sharpton? I mean, this is clearly racist behavior. I thought they were the head of the civil rights establishment.
We had a candidate who's running in the 1st Congressional District in the state of New Jersey for an open seat. Gary Cobb, former NFL linebacker, and he was talking about how I asked him what you had him on yesterday, why you were Republican, and a lot of his district, Camden and cities like that, which are heavily African American, and I asked him if it's going to be a hindrance if he's faced any of this, not down with the cause, Uncle Tom, and he said no. He says, I've been a pastor, I've been in these communities, and I think if he could win, and I don't know how hard behind him the Republican establishment is, if they're giving him money or not, they should. But if he could break through and win and become a black Republican in Congress from that kind of district, that would be just huge.
It would be huge. Camden, again, not only overwhelmingly black, but it's also very poor.
Oh, and crime-ridden.
And crime-ridden. And to give these kids a chance at education, Mia Love out in Utah, there's another one that's a highly Republican district that she's likely to win. I think that the best way for us to diversify the party is to continue to, not only at the federal level, but at the state and local level, get candidates of color, quality, smart folks run, and let them do their thing.
And you hear from the left, we're a party of white males.
Right.
Yet when you have these African Americans or Hispanics or women run, they're the first ones, maybe not them personally, but they're the first ones to let it slide and condone it when they're attacked for being a minority.
Yeah, gee, does the term hypocrisy mean anything to us, Steve? I mean, come on. But it's folks who are brave enough to go out there, Tim Scott from South Carolina, another one, and say, I am not representing South Carolina as the black senator, I am representing you as your senator. And I think the Republicans look at people based on their qualifications and what they do, and unfortunately, the Democrats are trying to divide us based on race, gender, and, I don't even want to get into.
And we have the divider-in-chief in the White House.
Who perpetuates it.
And he never ends. And of course, the Attorney General, and they just want to divide and divide and divide, and it's really sad. But it's always great talking to you, sir. Always great seeing you. Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.
I appreciate Ron Christie, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Read him at thedailybeast.com. And of course, whenever I sit next to anybody who actually worked for George W. Bush, I get a chill. I do. I get a chill. Because where we've gone from George W. Bush to now, it's like, oh please, give me those days back. Anyway, we're coming back, ladies and gentlemen, with the Malzberg panel. We'll discuss all of this and more. So don't go away. Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax Television.